Hey gang! So this week I'm talking about multiplayer games. Now I'm actually gonna be 34 next month, which so I've kind of seen I was probably playing video games when I was like since I was 4 years old, maybe three, but I literally remember my brother getting the Super Nintendo for Christmas back in '91, and my point is, like, I've been playing video games for 30 years, and I've firsthand seen, like, the evolution of multiplayer games, like, from split screen to System Link to online. And, of course, there was always arcades, too, but that kind of started more, like, in the 80s. You know, I was born in 87. And the thing is, I feel like I'm sure something that we all know is that local multiplayer is kind of fizzling out. Like, it has been for the past few years, or so, well, more than the past few years. It has been for quite a number of years. Like, but yeah, and you still see some of it, like with like from the big three, if you will, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. Like, I think Nintendo embraces it the most. Like, you still see some of it from Sony and Microsoft, but not as much as the '90s. Not that Microsoft was making consoles back in the '90s, but that's beside the point. Um, but yeah, it's nice that one of them like still focuses on like local multiplayer somewhat, like, which is Nintendo. Like, they still really embrace local multiplayer, which I think is also kind of the reason why they struggle with online multiplayer, but that's a whole other story. But when it comes to like local versus online, there are pros and cons to both of them, which I'm kind of going to talk about. Now, the first one, which I've talked about on this channel before, is like availability, like, well, friendship availability and stuff, like, because there comes the point in your life where you and your friends, it's not that you go your separate ways, but you end up on like different schedules, like, because like as you get older, you start working like a full-time job or start a family. Some of us might be doing both, and you have other responsibilities and everything. So you don't have the time to. It's not like when you think back to like your teenage years, or your childhood, or your 20s, or whatever, when you and your buddies would all just kind of hang around the living room or bedroom and like all play like N64, GameCube, Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, the list goes on. But it's like I said, as you get older, you all end up on different schedules. So it's like, unless you plan ahead, it's hard to play these new games together, like play all in the same room or whatever. So that's kind of where like online comes into play, because when you play a game online, there's always, for the most part, there's like, depending on the game and popularity and stuff, there's always going to be easy to find people to play online with. Like, that's a no-brainer. Like, if you got free time, like if you have some time to kill but your friends don't, then there's plenty of people online to play with. The next thing is not backwards compatibility. What the hell is the word I'm looking for? Replay value. Now, when you think about it, like, a lot of people, including myself, love to replay old games, whether it be single player or multiplayer. Everybody's different, obviously, but multiplayer games you can always go back and play. Like, well, certain ones, like things like going back, like I said, back to like the Xbox, GameCube, Dreamcast, PS2, original Xbox, hell, even all the other systems before that. Like, because obviously some of these require like an adapter or something to play multiplayer games. Even the Super Nintendo one had that. Which that's the thing, but my point is, you can always go back and replay these games, like, and revisit them, like, if your friends aren't all busy. I mean, because obviously you could always plan ahead. Like, you could all like plan ahead to do something, to like all hang out and play, like, I don't know, Mario Party or something, but or like the original Smash Brothers, or like one of the old wrestling games or whatever. But GoldenEye. But the thing is, like, or if you're like going to a what the hell do you call it? Like a family get together for like Thanksgiving or something. And you're like, oh, maybe I'll bring my N64 and see if anybody wants to play like No Mercy or GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Mario Kart, Mario Party, whatever. And it's easy to do that. You just bring the system over and hook it up and stuff. And like it's easy. Hell, like 20 years from now, well, maybe that's a stretch, but like 10, 15 years from now, you can go back and play these old games like with friends and family and stuff. But when it comes to online multiplayer, each and every game, when it comes to online games, each and every game has their own servers, because it's the people behind the game or games are also behind the server or servers, and over time, online games lose popularity. So eventually, they shut the servers down, and when that happens, you can no longer play these games online. I mean, you can technically, but you have to do like custom things with friends or something. Like I said, you have to set everything up. It's not as simple as just going online and playing with like people around the world, which I talked about before. So it's like like I said, like think of something like the N64, which like let's say, well, let's not go like as far as 20. Let's say like 5 years from now, you can easily dig out your N64 and play it with friends and stuff or whatever. Whereas like take like the Halo games on 360. They're gonna be, I think it's next month, they're gonna be shutting the servers down for those. So it's not like you could just like 5 years from now, you're not gonna be able to, well, even before that, but you're not gonna be able to hook the just like, oh, I think I kind of feel like playing Halo Reach online. Can't, because, well, unless you have like a bunch of friends to set up a custom mode with, you can't just randomly play it online. So that's one of the problems with like online multiplayer for, like I said, like servers and stuff. And that's another thing. Eventually, even if a server's is like, that's another thing, like server reliability. If the game servers are down, you can't play them. Like, let's say you have Xbox One, and the servers for Gears 5 are down. That means you can't play that game on there. I mean, you could still play Gears of War 4 or like Halo 5, Fortnite, Rocket League, whatever. You could play those games, but you can't play Halo 5. I mean, Gears of War 5, excuse me. So, yeah, that's another thing with that. And then the last thing is, well, trolls, which that's something you kind of just have to deal with, like when it comes to the internet. Like it's it's just one of those things, like welcome to the internet. But sometimes when you don't feel like dealing with it, like if you're like, let's say you had a miserable day at work and you just want some time to unwind, like want to play a game online, have a little fun, and forget about everything that happened. But then you got people who are just like screwing around or whatever, and it's just like it just kind of ruins it for you. Or it's like when people will just like quit for no reason, like a couple, like, which rage quitting, I'll get to that in a second. But it's like people who do it just to be annoying. Like a probably good example of this was in the Gears of War games. Like, and this happened quite a bit with me on Gears of War 4, and I don't think it's because it happened consistently. I really don't think it's like a bad connection or anything. It was with Gears of War 4. It was like for Horde mode, first you gotta wait for like to find your teammates and stuff. Then everybody has to pick their class or whatever. In some cases people are like, oh, because there's 5 different classes, so people would be like, oh, I'll pick this one because this person picked that one. Sometimes people would just want to balance it out, like everyone picks one. Like not always, but sometimes, which is kind of nice. And then it's like, then you gotta wait for the map and everything to load. So then you get to the map, and it's like when you go to like set up the traps or whatever, or like right after the first wave starts, or even before that, 1 or 2 people would quit. And I honestly think they would do that just to be annoying. Like, just to throw the thing off. Like, and it's funny, like, like, I feel like there's people, probably like a minority, like, it's very minimal, but I guarantee there are people like that, that's all they do with this game. Like, they don't play the campaign or like regular online multiplayer or regular Horde. They just literally play the game just to do that. Like, wow, that's sad. Another thing is when you have like rage quitters who will like quit in the middle of a match because they're a sore loser, which I've talked about this before too. With like when it's kids, I can understand like. Because it's like they have what always comes to my mind is the show Rocket Power. Long story short, there's an episode where the character Otto says, "It's only fun if I win." And I'll admit, I went through that phase when I was a kid, but I outgrew it. And there's people who never outgrow it. Like, again, kids I can understand, but when it's like full-grown adults, that's just kind of sad. And it's funny, I remember, well, actually, let me get back to that in a second. We're going to talk about fighting games, which, the point I was going to make is something about my brother, which I'll get back to that in a second, is with fighting games, I don't really care about achievements that much as I used to, but with fighting games, whether it be like Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Soul Calibur, whatever, they always have achievements and trophies that it's like, win this many matches online. And a lot of times, these trophies or achievements can be hard to get because somebody will be like a sore loser. If you're about to win a match, they'll quit. And I remember my brother made a really good point about this. It was like, what would these people have done like back in the day? Like if you figure like, let's say you're back in the years 95, 96, excuse me, and you're playing Mortal Kombat 3 with some random person and you're about to win or you're going to do a fatality to them. Would they just walk away or something? Probably not. That's the power of the internet. But yeah, those are, I think, just some of the pros and cons of local and versus multiplayer online. And who knows down the road if maybe down the road we'll see multiplayer rise back up a little again. But until then, thanks for watching, everybody, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.